Hi, I'm Mona. I'm 26. Let me ask you something. Have you ever looked at your English journey and felt a quiet ache inside? Not because you never tried, not because you did not care, but because you cared, you tried, you started again and again, and still you felt like something was not working. Maybe you bought courses, maybe you saved videos, maybe you wrote long vocabulary lists. Maybe you promised yourself, this time I will be serious. Maybe you even felt motivated for a few days or a week or a month. But then life became busy. Your energy dropped, your routine broke, your confidence became shaky. And slowly that painful question came back again. Why am I still not where I want to be? If you have ever felt that question in your chest, this lesson is for you. Because many people think most learners fail to learn English because they are lazy, untalented, distracted, or not smart enough. But that is usually not the real reason. Most people do not fail because they lack desire. Most people fail because they follow methods that do not fit real life, build routines they cannot sustain, expect progress to look dramatic, and judge themselves too harshly when the journey becomes messy. That is what I want to talk about today, not to make you feel worse, not to attack you, not to shame you. I want to show you the real reasons so many learners stop growing, and more importantly, how you can avoid those traps. Because when you understand why people fail, you also begin to understand how progress actually works. And that matters, because maybe you do not need more pressure. Maybe you do not need a more beautiful planner. Maybe you do not need to become a completely different person. Maybe you simply need a truer way to think about learning English. Today, we are going to talk about why most people fail to learn English. But we are also going to talk about hope, because the truth is this. If failure has patterns, success has patterns too, and once you see them clearly, your path becomes much easier to trust. First, I will tell you a personal story about how I used to misunderstand progress and accidentally make English harder than it needed to be. Then I will show you the most common reasons learners fail, even when they care deeply. After that, I will explain what successful learners usually do differently. Then we will do a short reflective practice together. And at the end, I will leave you with a simple message you can carry into your own routine. I will use clear English, practical examples, and a calm, honest tone. Ready? Let's begin. For a long time, I believed that if I really wanted to improve my English, I needed to do everything in a big way. A big plan, a big study schedule, a big vocabulary list, a big promise, a big transformation. I thought serious progress had to look impressive. If I was truly committed, I imagined I should study for a long time every day. I imagined a very organized version of myself sitting at a clean desk with perfect notes, sharp focus, and unlimited motivation. In my mind, real learners did everything correctly. They listened every day. They reviewed vocabulary. They practiced speaking. They studied grammar. They read difficult material. They kept going without breaking. And because that image lived in my head, I kept creating routines that looked beautiful but felt too heavy to carry. On some evenings, especially when I felt inspired, I would write a strong plan for the week ahead. Monday, listening. Tuesday, grammar. Wednesday, speaking. Thursday, reading. Friday, vocabulary. Saturday, shadowing. Sunday, review. The plan looked disciplined. It looked mature. It looked powerful, but when real life arrived, something different happened. I got tired. I got distracted. I got interrupted. I came home with low energy. I looked at the plan and felt pressure instead of clarity, and because the plan felt too big, I often did nothing. That was the pattern, not because I did not care, because I cared so much that I made the routine too heavy to survive ordinary life. Back then, I did not understand that clearly. I simply thought I needed more discipline, so I blamed myself. I called myself inconsistent. I told myself I lacked focus. I treated my struggle like a personal weakness, but the deeper truth was simpler. My method was not built for real life, and when a method cannot survive real life, it will quietly fail again and again. There was one week that changed the way I saw everything. It was not a dramatic week. That is exactly why it mattered. It was ordinary, busy, tiring, mentally crowded. The kind of week many adults know very well. I had things to do, messages to answer, work to handle, small responsibilities to carry. My sleep was not great. My energy was uneven. Nothing tragic happened. Life simply felt full. On Monday, I said I would study at night. I did not. On Tuesday, I told myself I would make up for Monday. I did not. On Wednesday, I opened an English video, watched for a few minutes, felt guilty, and closed it. On Thursday, I thought, maybe I will start properly next week. By Friday, I felt disappointed in myself, not because I had done nothing in life. I had done many things. I had been responsible. I had moved through the week like an adult. But the thing that mattered deeply to me, my English, kept becoming the thing I delayed. And that feeling hurts in a special way because English is not just a subject for many learners. It is connected to identity, confidence, opportunity, work, freedom, self-respect. When you keep delaying English, it can feel like you are delaying a stronger version of yourself. That Friday, I looked at my notebook and saw another beautiful plan that had collapsed almost immediately. And for the first time, I asked myself a more honest question. What if most people fail to learn English not because they are weak, but because they keep building systems that collapse under normal life? That question opened something in me, because once I asked it, I could no longer blame only my personality. I had to look at the structure. I had to look at the method. I had to look at what was actually sustainable. That was the beginning of a better understanding. This is one of the biggest reasons. People make English too big, too heavy, too dramatic, too demanding. They turn it into a mountain. And when something feels like a mountain, the mind resists it. Many learners think progress only counts if they do a lot. 1 hour, 2 hours, a huge lesson, a giant vocabulary review, an advanced article, a full notebook page. A serious study session, so when they cannot do all that, they do nothing. This is how all-or-nothing thinking quietly destroys growth. If I cannot do a full hour, it is not worth starting. If I cannot focus perfectly, I should try tomorrow. If today is messy, today does not count. If I missed yesterday, this week is already broken. These thoughts sound small, but they are destructive, because language learning is not built only on intensity. It is built on contact, repeated contact, steady contact, human contact. English grows when you meet it again and again, not only when you attack it in dramatic bursts. So many people fail because they keep waiting for the perfect study day instead of learning how to use ordinary imperfect days. That is the difference. A failing routine needs ideal conditions. A strong routine survives normal life. This is another major reason learners fall apart. They depend too much on emotion. They study when they feel excited. They stop when they feel discouraged. They return when they feel inspired again. They disappear when life becomes difficult. This creates a very unstable rhythm. For a few days, they feel powerful. Then silence returns. Then guilt returns. Then the cycle begins again. Emotional studying feels productive in the short term because motivation can create a burst of energy. But motivation is not stable enough to carry long-term progress on its own. Some days you feel hopeful. Some days you feel tired. Some days you feel strong. Some days you feel doubtful. Some days you feel ready. Some days you feel flat. If your routine only works when your emotions are supportive, your routine will break often. That does not mean motivation is bad. Motivation is helpful. It can start things, but habit is stronger. Habit is quieter than motivation, but more dependable. And that is why many people fail. They keep waiting to feel ready instead of building something they can follow even on low-energy days. This reason hurts many learners more than they realize. They consume English, but they do not use English enough. They watch videos. They listen to lessons. They save helpful clips. They read stories. They collect phrases. They admire fluent speakers, but they do not respond enough with their own English. And because of that, they begin to experience a strange frustration. They understand more, but they still cannot speak easily. They recognize words, but they struggle to use them. They know the lesson. But when the real moment arrives, their own voice feels blocked. Why? Because recognition and production are not the same skill. Understanding is important. Listening is important. Reading is important. But if English keeps entering you and very little comes back out, the bridge between knowledge and expression stays weak. Many learners fail because they confuse exposure with use. Exposure helps. Use builds. You need both, but many people live too heavily on one side. This is one of the most painful traps. People want a deep process to move at a shallow speed. They want fast signs, fast confidence, fast fluency, fast clarity, fast transformation. And when English does not change quickly enough, they feel discouraged. This is understandable. We all want progress we can feel, but language learning is not usually dramatic. It is gradual, it is layered, it is repetitive. Sometimes the biggest changes are happening quietly before they become visible. A phrase sounds more familiar. A sentence comes out more smoothly. A video feels slightly easier to follow. A fear becomes a little lighter. A response comes a little faster. These changes may look minor from the outside, but they are the real roots of growth. Many learners fail because they expect English to reward them quickly, and when the reward feels slow, they lose faith. That is why patience matters so much. Not passive patience, active patience. The kind that keeps showing up even before the full result appears. Shame is one of the quiet enemies of language learning. A learner misses a few days. A routine breaks. A speaking moment feels awkward. A sentence comes out badly. A listening exercise goes poorly. And then instead of treating that moment as normal, they turn it into a personal judgment. I am bad at this. I never stay consistent. I always fail. Maybe English is not for me. That kind of inner voice damages progress deeply. Because shame does not usually create healthy discipline, It often creates avoidance. If English becomes connected to guilt, embarrassment, and self-attack, the mind begins protecting itself by staying away. That is dangerous, because then the learner is not only fighting grammar or vocabulary, they are fighting the emotional weight English now carries. Many people fail not because they made mistakes, but because they turned ordinary setbacks into proof that they were not capable. That is not true. Setbacks are normal. Missing days is normal. Awkward speaking is normal. Slow progress is normal. What matters is not perfection. What matters is return. This reason is huge. A routine can look excellent on paper and still fail in real life. Many learners build routines for their fantasy life. A life where they wake up early every day, feel motivated, sit at a clean desk, and study with calm focus for long periods. That life may happen sometimes. But most real progress does not come from fantasy days. It comes from normal days, ordinary mornings, busy lunch breaks, tired evenings, uneven energy, messy schedules. If your English method only works under ideal conditions, it will keep breaking. And when it keeps breaking, you will start blaming yourself. But often the problem is not character. It is design. A better learner does not only ask, "What is the best English routine in theory?" A better learner asks, "What routine can survive the life I actually live?" That question changes everything, because a realistic routine may not look impressive, but it will carry you farther. Another major reason people fail is this: they try to improve everything together. Grammar, vocabulary, speaking, listening, pronunciation, writing, reading, idioms, slang, fluency, accent, confidence. Every area feels important, so they attack all of it at the same time. The result is not clear. The result is overload, and overloaded learners often stop. This is why simplicity matters. Not because English is simple, because human attention is limited. A good learner knows how to narrow focus for a time. This week, listening and repeating. This week, speaking questions. This week, short story summaries. This week, daily vocabulary and context. A focused plan is easier to follow than a giant one. Many people fail because they do not give themselves a clear lane. They try to carry too much at once, and the weight becomes discouraging. This is another painful misunderstanding. Many learners believe confidence must come first, then they will speak. But in real life, confidence often grows because you keep speaking before you feel fully ready. Not carelessly, not wildly, but gradually, regularly, honestly. If days and days pass without your voice touching English, speaking becomes heavier in your mind than it really is. Then, when you finally try, the awkwardness feels like proof that you are bad at speaking. But it is not proof of inability. It is proof of lack of regular contact. Confidence does not always appear before action. Sometimes it grows through repeated action. That is why daily output matters so much. 1 sentence today, 3 tomorrow. A short answer the next day. Over time, your mind learns something important. I can do this. Maybe not perfectly, maybe not quickly, but I can do this. Many learners fail because they keep waiting for a feeling that usually arrives after repeated use, not before it. Now let's shift from the reasons people fail to the patterns that help people succeed. Successful learners are not always the most naturally gifted. They are often the ones who build a better relationship with the process. They accept that English is gradual. They keep contact regular. They stop worshiping big plans. They create routines that fit ordinary life. They allow imperfect practice. They use English, not only consume it. They return quickly after missing a day. They become less dramatic about mistakes. They understand that progress often looks quiet before it looks impressive. That is what helps, not perfection, not endless motivation, not guilt, a wiser relationship with repetition. When I finally understood these things, my approach started changing. I stopped asking, how can I look like a serious learner? I started asking, what can I actually repeat? That question made me calmer. It made me more realistic. It made me more effective. I no longer needed every session to be huge. I no longer needed every day to feel inspiring. I no longer treated short practice like failure. Instead, I began respecting regular contact. I began respecting simple repetition. I began respecting the ordinary, and that changed my emotional relationship with English more than I expected. English started feeling less like a giant dream I kept disappointing. It started feeling more like a daily path I could actually walk. That change matters deeply because dreams inspire us, but habits change us. Now let's do a small reflective speaking practice together. Please repeat after me. I do not fail because I am weak. I fail when my method does not fit my life. I do not need a perfect routine. I need a repeatable routine. Short practice still counts. Awkward practice still counts. Today still counts. I can return after a bad day. I can improve step by step. I do not need dramatic progress. I need steady progress. Very good. Now answer these questions out loud if you can. What usually causes you to stop learning English? Do you expect too much from one day? Do you use English enough? Or mostly only watch it? What kind of routine could survive your real life? What is one way you can make your English more regular this week? You do not need long answers. Even one honest sentence is enough. The goal is not performance. The goal is awareness. Let's gather the reasons clearly. A. Making English too big to start easily. B. Depending too much on motivation. C. Staying too passive and not using the language enough. D. Expecting fast results from a slow process. E. Letting shame stay too long after setbacks. F. Building routines that do not fit real life. G. Trying to improve everything at once. If you recognize yourself in some of these, that does not mean you are doomed. It means you are human. Many learners move through these patterns. The important thing is not to feel attacked. The important thing is to become wiser. Once you can name the trap, you can stop living inside it. If you want a better path, do these things instead. Make the routine lighter. Make the contact more regular. Add output, not only input. Expect progress to be gradual. Treat missed days like normal life, not total failure. Return quickly. Focus on one or two areas at a time. Build around your real schedule, not your fantasy schedule. Respect ordinary days. That is the way forward, not glamorous, not dramatic, but strong. I want to say something carefully here. Many learners say, I failed to learn English. But often that sentence is too harsh. Maybe the truth is not that you failed. Maybe the truth is that you kept using a method that could not hold you. Maybe you were carrying too much. Maybe you were too hard on yourself. Maybe you kept measuring progress in the wrong way. Maybe you confused inconsistency with impossibility. Maybe you thought a broken week meant a broken future. That is not true. A difficult season is not the end. A slow period is not the end. Even years of stopping and starting do not mean your journey is over. They only mean your method needs more honesty, and honesty is powerful. Because once you stop pretending, real change can begin. When I look back now, I can see something clearly. The moments that felt like failure were often teaching me what did not fit. They showed me which routines were too heavy, which expectations were too dramatic, which beliefs were too punishing, which habits were too fragile. That does not mean the pain was pleasant, it was not, but it does mean something hopeful. Even failure can become useful when you understand it properly. It can point you toward a better structure, a gentler method, a more realistic rhythm, a stronger identity. That is why today's lesson matters, not because I want you to feel afraid of failure, because I want you to understand it well enough that it stops controlling your choices. Let's say it clearly. People keep learning English when the process feels possible, when the routine fits real life, when the emotional burden becomes lighter, when the practice becomes regular enough to feel familiar, when they stop needing each day to look impressive, when they stop treating every mistake like a verdict, when they trust that quiet effort still counts. That is what helps. A repeatable method, a lighter emotional relationship with the language, and enough honesty to stop chasing fantasy progress. If I had to name the deepest shift, it would be this. You stop asking, how do I become fluent quickly? And you start asking, how do I build a life where English keeps happening? That is a different question, and it creates a different future. Because fluency is not only built in exciting moments, it is built in repeated contact, repeated listening, repeated speaking, repeated return, repeated ordinary practice. Once English becomes part of your life instead of only a dream floating above your life, progress becomes steadier. That is the quiet shift, and it changes everything. If you feel discouraged right now, I want to tell you something honestly. Most people do not fail to learn English because they are hopeless. They fail because they make the path too heavy, too dramatic, too unrealistic, and too painful to sustain. That means there is hope. Because if the problem is the path can change. You can make it lighter, you can make it truer, you can make it fit the life you actually live. You can stop treating ordinary setbacks like final proof. You can stop worshiping perfect plans. You can stop waiting for ideal conditions. You can build a better relationship with English. And once that relationship becomes steadier, the language begins changing too. So if you have been blaming yourself, breathe. Maybe you do not need more self-attack. Maybe you need more wisdom, more simplicity, more repetition, more honesty, more return. One day you may look back and realize something surprising. The learner who kept feeling broken was never broken. The learner simply needed a better way to continue. If this lesson helped you today, please subscribe to Mona English Café and turn on the bell so you never miss your daily English dose. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like so I know you want more lessons like this, and leave a comment below telling me what English topic, real-life situation, or speaking struggle you want Mona to talk about next. Your idea could become the next video. Keep going, keep practicing, and remember, your English can grow step by step. See you in the next lesson.